𝗦𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗲.
It's starting to bubble up, right? We're starting to get some understanding of this. It did even make mainstream. I know probably that they didn't necessarily want that press. What is going on exactly, though? What is this human trafficking? To what degree? I don't understand.
Number one, then sex trafficking. Number two, okay, all age groups and genders, and then number three, forced labor. There is still forced labor. Now you can absolutely forced labor. You can go to Department of Homeland Security. You can go to the FBI. You can go to Justice Department. You can even go to the United Nations, and you can look at their statistics on human trafficking. Now, if you go to the Department of Homeland Security, if you really want to understand this, they offer, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 12 online courses that any citizen can sign up for, and they will teach you how to recognize individuals that are working without their will. In other words, they are working as forced labor. And they are in everything from retail manufacturing, to retail stores, to restaurants, to you name it. We have these classic things. It's only farm workers, or, it's only something else. No, it's not. No, it's not. You have a highly polished corporate, lawn care thing that shows up and takes care of an entire community, like this, this preserve that I live on, where they have, everything's taken care of by lawn care guys that come in, and you have huge crews. You have no idea 50% or 70% of those crews could be forced labor. You look at the different statistics on how many people that are working as slaves, sex slaves, or as forced labor slaves. There are estimates. The conservative estimates are something like 27.8 million. That's 27.8 million. That's what the U.S., I think, Department of Labor and the U.S., the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department, that's what they tell you, to use that figure. Don't go by the other more inflated figures. You go to the United Nations, they've got a figure a little bit more conservative than that. But then you start looking at the organizations that track this stuff, who are not government affiliated, who do not have anything to gain by trying to tamp down those statistics. And the number of slaves are now they're upwards of somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80 million slaves. That's the combined population of California and Texas together.
I had something written down here that you mentioned about special access, or the intelligence community, right? But they come out and they say, I'll never know the truth. And so it immediately got me going, and this is connected to the human trafficking. Is there, or are there, groups of people that do know the truth, that sit at the top of all of the information, or that can actually see all the pieces and all the puzzles? Do those people exist? And are these the same people? Are they related to any of the human trafficking? Because when you say that there's nearly 100 million people being human trafficked,
somebody always knows something at the top. These organizations that are responsible for monitoring this stuff, like, look, NSA and DIA and CIA and, everything in between all of those, and all the little offices within those directorates, rather, are all charged with looking at something inside this onion and around the onion and outside the onion. They keep track of this stuff for us. I mean, they're aware of it. Do they run this stuff to ground? Absolutely, they run it to ground. Then they feed it over to the FBI, or they feed it over to Customs, or they feed it over to something else. Can the administration flavor how, what's done and how it's done with reference to that kind of intel as it's collected? Yes. So you can either say it doesn't matter, let them all, it doesn't matter. People have to understand there's a consequence to opening up the border. It's not like, do you understand? You now create a portal, a free portal for human traffickers to bring trafficked human beings into the United States. And then, statistically speaking, what ends up happening is the United States then gets labeled as the largest consumer of human trafficking. And that's what's happened to us. We're now labeled as the largest consumer of human trafficking.
Are we the source? So, we're not the source of it?
No, we're not the source of it. It comes from the rest of the world. And it comes from Central and South America. It comes from Africa. It comes from, Eastern Europe. It comes from China. It comes from any place, in multiple places in Asia. It comes from any place where people are cheap and human rights are non-existent per se. And if they can be packaged and transported by any way, shape, or form, and can be brought to some place where they can be brought across a border and then utilized as forced labor in any capacity that they choose to use them. Or sometimes they bring them into other countries like Mexico and use them to build things, or bring them into Indonesia and use them there to build things, Malaysia to build, to create things, our jeans and sneakers and what the hell ever else. It is the largest industry on the planet right now. And you don't ever hear that, do you? You don't hear it on the news. People don't talk about it. People don't understand the consequences of it. People don't understand why one decision in an administration that says, let them all in, how that just to somebody that's trying to traffic humans into the United States or Canada or both just turns around and goes, thank you very much. And now they just traffic humans in there.